Greetings, good people. Welcome to another edition of Leaders and Learners, where we all know that the best leaders are lifetime learners. And today I have someone that's going to help you learn a little something about the bail system and about the law and how it works and what some of us might even be missing in this debate about cash bail and the legal system. Remember, you can tap in and ask questions live while you have my friend here. We definitely want to make sure that our guests are accessible and that you can get your questions answered so that you leave with more than you came here for. So, without further ado, I got a good story for you. Welcome, Mr. King Good. Hi, Ken.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast.
I'm excited to have you. You're in Texas, right? What part of Texas?
Tyler, but I also have an office in Houston.
Oh, you do. How's the weather there right now?
Very, very hot, melting hot. I mean, I have a pool in my backyard, as you can tell. So I am.
Is it humid heat or is it that still solid burning you heat?
Tyler, burning you heat. Houston, very humid heat. I remember when I first flew to Houston for work, I would get off the plane and I was carrying a folder and just melted because of all the humidity. So think of it like that when you get to Houston.
You know, that's one of those things where you start learning that culture is also regionally, right? So the culture of Texas is definitely going to be different than the culture of California or other places in the United States. And we just move different based on where we live sometimes. So I'm excited to have you here. Why don't you go ahead and get into your story for the people?
Sure. Thank you so much for the story. So, years ago in my career, I was, a, for those of you who do not know me, I'm a Christian and I attend church regularly. And I had a friend who, she was white. I guess it's important for the story. And she'd married a black guy and they had 4 children and all of her children looked like her husband. And so she would get stopped in the grocery store and people would say, "Oh, we admire you for adopting 4 black children." And she would say, "Well, these aren't adopted. They're my children." And then she would be the recipient of a bad reaction. And so she had a situation where her kids were playing with the next door neighbor's kids, and the neighbor's kid pushed her kid, and he ended up falling. And they were very young, 8 or younger, and he hit his head and cracked his skull. I mean, broke his bone in his skull, and so had major problems. And so she went to the neighbor and said, "Look, our kids were playing. Will you help pay for half of the medical bills?" And she called me and said that her neighbor's reaction was not only no, but keep your black kids. And she probably said a very derogatory word instead of that, off my property. And so when she told me that story, I was like, okay, I'm going to represent you. I'm going to represent you for free. And we're going to go and we're going to take this to court. And so we did. I refer to that as, Little Rascals case. And we had these little kids come and talk to the jury. And in the end, the neighbor ended up, instead of paying for half the medical bills, she ended up having to pay for all the medical bills. And I got involved because it was a travesty. And I was very offended with what was said to this woman about her children who she loved. And so I got on board and I probably had a crusade about it, and it had a good result. I mean, not all crusades have a good result. That one did.
Now, let me ask you, what was it about her situation, though, that really triggered you to get involved? Was it the derogatory nature of what was said, or do you have an affinity for helping kids and people with kids? Like, what? Take me there as to the moment where you said, I want to be involved in this case.
Oh, it was the derogatory statement about children.
Where are you from, if you don't mind me asking? Born and raised?
I'm born and raised. If you look at the dead center of Texas and you just raise your finger just a little bit, it's called Eastland County. And I was raised in Gorman, Texas, which is a population of 1,258, peanut farming community. I used to move pipe in the peanut fields when I was growing up. I don't know if they raise much peanuts anymore. My parents were public school teachers. They were there. My mom taught 30 years in the public school system. All of them but 1 year was in that school, and they retired there. And they died there because they had a car accident and probably about 5 years ago and passed away.
Wow. Okay. Where did you wind up going to college? Did you leave that area, or you
Abilene,
stayed?
Abilene is the next town over. My parents met at Hardin Simmons University, which is a Baptist university. So I was second generation going to Hardin Simmons University, and then I went to Tarleton State for my master's degree, and I went to Texas Tech in the Panhandle for my law degree.
So you are just Texas all the way through. You never wanted to leave?
Oh, I couldn't afford to leave. I mean, I was poor. I was poor. My parents accused me of being a professional student. I'm like, I can't, I'm not a professional student because I keep graduating, but I couldn't afford to. Texas. What are you talking about? It's like when I graduated from law school, the dean came to me and said, Ken, you're a really good writer. I want you to apply to the Supreme Court of Texas. I can get you a clerkship there. And I'm like, I already have a job paying more money than that. I can't afford the pay cut. So thank you very much. But I'm going to take what I have because I've worked very hard for it. And so, yes, that's my story is very poor growing up. And, you can work hard and become successful.
What are race relations like where you're from?
Oh, non-existent when I was growing up. I mean, when
Okay.
I was growing up, unbeknownst to me, but minorities could not come to our area, and they were told, "Don't be here after dark." Probably in Hardin Simmons, when I was the first year I went to school with a minority who wasn't on a sports on the basketball team or the football team. But Hardin Simmons didn't have a football team at that time. And I think that person that I knew was elected student body president. So I didn't think anything about it because I was not around it at all. I mean, so
Mm.
I would say my parents, God love them. Their response would be, we're not prejudiced, but we're, a biracial couple. We would be worried about the children, which, as they got older and I got older, I would say that's the definition of racism. If we're not racist, we don't care about stuff like that. But I would say really, since I was shielded from it, I didn't have anybody say anything about it. So I was left to make up my own mind. And my own mind was, look, you're your own person. I'm a very trusting person until you prove to me that you can't be trusted. And then it's going to be very difficult for you to get my trust back.
So we're gonna get into the zero bail conversation, but I still want now I'm just so intrigued because I think this is something that a lot of people don't understand is if you were brought up in a situation where either racism and color wasn't an issue until it was, how did you become so compassionate about a woman that was dealing with a racial issue with her kids? Like
That just means
that's
I
where
was
I'm
never around it. And
okay.
so I was offended when I was faced with
Mm,
it. And it was somebody that I knew that I attended church with. And so someone, she didn't have anybody to stand up for her. That's
mm.
why she called me. And so I said I would. I mean, I didn't even think about it. I said I would. And, it was, in comparison things, it was a small give on my part, time. Okay. And I will say time, I tell my kids, because I have two daughters, time is my most valuable asset. And so if I give you my time, I'm giving you my most valuable asset and it's your
Mm.
most valuable asset. And so when we spend time together, I'm giving you everything, the thing that I think is the most valuable. And so, but to me at the time, when I was doing that, it was nothing. It was just time.
You come from a small family. Tell me about your family, your parents, your household. How many siblings did you have?
My parents had 4 kids in 2 years and 5 months. So I know every time I tell this story, everybody says, "You're a poor mother," because my mom, I'm 11 months older than my twin sisters. And so my brother was a year older than me. So I was the stereotypical middle child. But I would say our family was close growing up, but then fell apart afterwards because in 1989, one of my sisters had a car accident and broke every bone
Mm.
in her face. And she started a 30 something year drug addiction for prescription medications. And that destroyed our family because we couldn't agree on what to do about it. I tried to fix her. I tried to get her arrested. At the time that was the poor man's drug rehab, was going to jail. And I never was able to successfully get her fixed. And our whole family ended up being estranged as a result of it. until the very end of my sister's life. And, I was able to step in at the very end and have her declared incompetent and get her into an assisted living facility for the last 4 or 5 years of her life, where her medications were monitored. She couldn't manipulate them. She couldn't abuse them. And by then she had a lot of brain damage, but it was probably some of the best years that she had in the last 30 years because, we got her on the welcoming committee for new residents, and she was a lot younger than everybody else there, but she had just suddenly was the cruise director for the assisted living facility. And she would go around and visit, as she said, all her little old ladies every day. And everybody knew her, loved her, and she was always laughing. And so while we were estranged for a period of time, at least, I was able to step in at the end and help her. I mean, I resented it for a little bit, but it was, there was a period of time before she passed away suddenly that we were talking on the phone every day, just like old times.
What is your advice for families that are dealing with addiction throughout their family and they're struggling with what the right course is, how to support them, not support them, cut them off? It causes all kinds of conflict within the family structure. What is your best advice to anybody that's dealing with that right now?
Well, first of all, it's one of the hardest things that we are facing in the country, and I say that from personal experience. But and this is hard to hear, but your loved one's best chances at success is with your involvement.
Mhm.
Now, that doesn't mean you have to enable them. That doesn't mean you have to allow them to do things. You have to set boundaries, and those boundaries may require them to step away for a period of time because they won't abide by them. But, we do all this. We're taking away the law, the criminal laws on drug addiction. So we're taking away the hammer for people to go to drug rehab. And so we're as a result, we're seeing record numbers of overdoses every month almost. I mean, go look at Portland and Oregon and all them, both of them. And I would say the best chance these people have for success is family. And so keep that in mind. Even if you're estranged for a while, if they show a willingness, you please have an openness with your heart. And really, when I was asked to come in and help with my sister at the last time, I originally said, no, I'm not going to do it. I've already been burned so many times. I'm not going to do it. And I had to go to pray about it. And I ultimately just said, one more time, that's the type of Christian I want to be. And if we can't help, then we tried. And that's really, that's a whole different story about all of that, because it was just a horrendous situation and a horrendous time in my life, because I was throwing so much money at that to try to get that under control. But I was ultimately successful. And that's not any kudos to me. That was kudos to a lot of people. I mean, a lot of people that I hired as attorneys to help me declare her incompetent, and people that were giving me advice. And I know a lot of people don't have that, but your family members' best chance at long-term success is with your involvement.
Thank you for sharing that. Now, what is your expertise in your law practice? We're going to talk about zero bail, but what is your driving force in your firm?
Right now, it's bail law, but
It is.
when I got out of law school, I was representing doctors and hospitals when they got sued. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm getting a call. Let me just cancel. So when I got out of law school, I was representing doctors and hospitals when they got sued. I was on a trial team that was very successful. I had an attorney who taught me how to practice law, and I really give him all the credit. If I'm a good lawyer, it's because of him. And but during that time, I just started doing appellate law because I've always had that interest. I had it in law school. I was on several national teams and won some awards from appellate issues. And so even when I was doing medical malpractice, I would do our appeals. And so we would go to a seminar on medical malpractice, and they would have a section on new and important cases from the Court of Appeals. And 3 of the 5 cases were mine. And so a bondsman had 45 default judgments, and they he asked somebody, who do you hire to help you in this? And they said, you need an appellate attorney. And that's how he got to me. And from there, word of mouth. And so I started representing bondsmen, started representing insurance companies. I'm Texas counsel for several in Texas right now. I am on the board of directors of the Professional Bondsmen of Texas. I'm on their legislative team. We propose bills to the legislature. We argue for and against bills at the legislature. I have my own podcast, The Bell Post, on criminal justice bail reform issues. I've written a lot of articles on these issues now. I've set out to become very knowledgeable on the bail reform movement because I went to a hearing on the O'Donnell case, saw that the judge was just going completely wrong, in my opinion. And I think history has proven me correct because she's been reversed 7, 8, or 9 times now on that case. And so as a result, I've become a resource and I've written numerous articles on the issues.
What is the issue with the bail system in our country?
Well, there was a mayor who was on a News Nation town hall, and I think she probably expressed it best. She was a former judge. She said, we're trying all these new things, and until we have an alternative to the private sector that has the same high level of accountability and the same high level of appearance, or the same low failure to appear rate, then we don't have an alternative. These zero bail, like you call it in California, released on no bail, and as they call it in New York, or released on a personal bond in Texas, they carry with them substantial failure to appear rates, and a criminal case can't go forward without them there. And so it creates chaos because the failure to appear rates cause so many cases to be put on hold, backlogs increase, and we already have substantial backlogs with COVID. And so what do to keep the system from collapsing? They start dismissing cases. And that's what you're seeing in California. I mean, compare a less than 10% failure to appear rate by the private industry to California's misdemeanor courts. The district attorney from Yolo County says it's a 80% failure to appear rate. I mean, I thought that was a out of this world, crazy, could not be correct number. But I had first found that number in Harris County, which is doing something very similar because they're doing it under the O'Donnell case just for misdemeanors. And our data under harriscountycourtwatch.com said 2 years, the average failure to appear rate was over 80%. And I was doing an interview with the Yolo County DA from California. He said, 80%, that's what we have across the state for misdemeanors in California, because that's what we do. We do simple release. We do. And I mean, that kills your criminal justice system.
So you're telling me that 80% of the people that get released with no bail don't show up for their court cases?
That's what people, yes, that's what I'm saying. I know it is for Harris County, because if you look at Harris County Court Watch, that's what it shows for 2 years.
So if they don't show up for their court case and they haven't posted any bail, what then are the next steps to dealing with their criminal case? Walk the people through that.
The case gets put on hold because you can't go forward on the criminal case until they come back. And so, I mean, California has this, you have to have the case tried within a certain amount of time. So what happens if they don't come back during that time? What do you do? Does the statute allow you to put the case on hold?
So there's no warrant for arrest or what?
Yeah, there's a warrant, but when there's a warrant and there's the private industry's out looking for you. But if there's a warrant in LA County, it goes down the hall to the warrant division and joins the tens of thousands of other warrants that are waiting to be served, which means they have to commit another crime, usually, to come back into the system.
Okay. All right. So here we go. I'm going to talk to you as someone that has already shown the ability to not see color, right? To work with someone because it's right or that they were done wrong.
Sure.
So from that angle, I also want to appeal to your humanitarian side, but also someone that grew up hard pressed for cash, right?
Just like me.
What do you say to people that say the bail system is racist or the bail system is unequal? What do you say to people that feel like those that come from no money do not have the same ability to fight their case as someone that comes from money? What is the conversation around this that shows a level of equity, or is there no equity here?
Well, that's, I'm trying to figure out the right thing to say because, I mean, I think there's a lot of things that you could say and they just get misinterpreted or people start attacking you, and that turns off the debate. Okay, so here's what I would say to you. If the bail system has systemic racism, then you're also arguing that the criminal justice system has systemic racism,
Which has been argued.
which has been argued. But let me ask you this. Do you also agree that minorities, Black and brown communities, have a disproportionate amount of crime committed against them versus other races? I mean, I'm not going to try to
No,
influence you. You don't think they do?
no. I
Uh,
think
I think all the studies show we have a disproportionate amount of crime being committed against our Black and brown communities. Look at our murder rate across the United States. 50% of all murder victims are Black young males. And by and large, the people committing that crime is young Black males. In this debate for criminal justice reform, bail reform, somehow we have flipped the narrative and we're favoring the young Black male murderer over the young Black male victim. And I don't, I think the studies show we have a disproportionate amount of crime on our minority communities. And there's a whole bunch of reasons for that. But if your argument is incorrect on systemic racism, think about it. We are
here's
sending
the
these
here's the
people
thing.
back to further hurt the very communities we're saying we're trying to help.
Well, here's the thing. There are just as percentage wise, there's just as much crime being committed, not the same kind of crime. There's but just as much crime being committed in other communities. Gun violence, I do believe, is higher in Black and brown communities. And let me be honest, I am a gun violence advocate. I want new laws that will take care of those committing gun violence in the harshest manner. It is doing the worst to our communities. I wholeheartedly agree with that. But when you look at the totality of crime, okay, it's happening through all the communities. There's no one community that's having more crime than others. It's different kinds of crime, but they all got crime. And if you come from money, you have the ability to just pay your bail and go back out and go ahead and continue to commit your crimes. And that's not even Black and brown. So I do think that I think that the way that this system is worked is more of a classism thing than it is a racial thing. Because if you are African American in a community that has a less amount of crime or less amount of violent crime, you're less likely to be involved in those things. It depends on where you live. And unfortunately, I live in Redondo Beach, California. Okay. There are parts of Redondo that has a higher level of crime, different kinds of crime than the other parts. South Redondo is old money. There's more white collar and other types of crime. The working class have more violent crime. We also have more homeless people over here. We have more, it's disproportionately the kind of crime that you would think people don't want to live in that area. But it's the working class. It's different, and it's the same city. There's different types of crime that happen in the same city. So depending on where you live, yeah, the working class, we want more protection. Yeah, we want more ability to be able to walk freely in our communities. But for someone that, okay, we chose North Redondo, the working class area, because it's closer to the freeway, because my husband travels a lot for work. I still want to feel safe in my city, no matter what part of it that I live in. So it's not okay that if you commit a crime over in South Redondo, that it's not treated the same as if it happens over here. It's just not. And that's more of a class thing than it is a Black and brown thing.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if I completely disagree with you, but I do think that our working class deserves every bit as much public safety as anyone else. And
100%.
my problem or my concern is I think that these policies that are being pushed for zero bail are making it harder for our working class places to have public safety because they have more crime. And that crime is being committed by people that like, let's use Harris County as an example, Houston, where they're doing these policies on misdemeanor crimes right now, even though the case has been reversed. They're still following it. And so someone is arrested for stealing a catalytic converter, he and their buddy, and they're being driven to the jail by the police. And they're like, wait a minute, this isn't the way you go to the Harris County jail. And they're like, well, that's right, because you were in Montgomery County. You crossed the county line. And in Montgomery County, we prosecute these crimes. And they were like freaking out because they had gone into Montgomery County. I mean, you think people don't realize, hey, in this county I can get by with this. I'm going to be released on zero bail in LA County, and if I don't show up, they're not going to do anything to me unless I get caught again, or until I get caught again. And if probably my case is going to be dismissed. You don't think they know that? I mean, I think.
And to be clear, I don't like zero bail. I'm just going to be. I don't like zero bail anywhere.
Yeah,
I don't
absolutely.
like zero bail, not at any location, any part of the city, any part of the county. I don't like it, but I've also been a gun violence survivor. I've also been a sexual assault survivor. And there are people that have committed these crimes that had money. So it's easy for them to just,
okay, so let's go back to your original
drop and go.
Your original question is then, is this unfair? And
Is it unfair?
I mean, and the answer to that is we don't have an alternative that's as fair. We don't have an alternative that doesn't create chaos. And we have to have, in California, their term is zero bail as an alternative to protect the poor. But if you have a criminal history, since your ability to pay is only one factor to consider in setting bail, if you have a substantial criminal history, then you're not being held in jail because they didn't give you zero bail. Because you're poor. They did it because you have a criminal history. I don't see a problem with that. The case law says there's no problem with that. The problem we have in this debate is the argument that we shouldn't be considering criminal history because that disproportionately impacts minorities. And I'm like, look, I mean, your criminal history is your best predictor of your future action because it says what you've done in the past. Why is it unfair to public safety to not consider what you've done in the past?
So let's take it back to something you're very familiar with, substance abuse.
Yes, ma'am.
How do you feel like bail should be dealt with when it comes to substance abuse? Because that is actually something that goes across incomes. That is from the poorest to the richest. There are issues with substance abuse. So looking at something like that is widespread across our nation, across our county, when someone is caught with illegal substances or caught abusing substances or out in the streets being abusive because they're on substances, can you see where maybe someone that comes from money, they can just post their bail and go ahead and deal with their issue, as opposed to someone that really don't have it, never came from it, it's just let go. Personally, I think they need to be dealt with the same.
So is the answer we just release everybody? I mean,
no,
that's not working.
Release none of them.
Absolutely. Okay, so here's my position on.
So let me finish that thought. Income-based bail.
No, I don't support that because most bail is posted by families, not by the defendant. And so I don't support that. But on
so
drugs,
how do we do this? Because it's inequitable. And I'm being a devil's advocate, obviously trying to get your thought on this, but
let's take a person who goes through the criminal justice system, first time offender, arrested. Nobody's going to hold them. It's their first time arrested. You're arrested again. Your friends, your family's going to help you. But as you get arrested more often, people start peeling away. You start losing friends helping you. And the last people who are going to help you is your family. Those are the last people they're going to walk away from you. But you can hurt them so many times that they'll walk away from you too. And then you have nobody to get you out of jail. And you know what? Those are our career criminals, and they need to stay in jail. We don't need to be bonding them out. We don't need to be releasing them on zero bail, and we don't need to be having charitable organizations bailing them out, because this is the people that are committing most of the crime.
But if they come from more resources, they have the ability to continue to do what people that don't come from resources cannot do. That's where the argument is. So I guess I'm asking you to appeal to the inequity of it, because obviously if there was an inequity, then it wouldn't even be an argument. We'd all just agree.
But the problem is, using your argument, then what we're saying is we need to do this, and this is not an alternative. I mean, I think the statistics are showing it's a complete failure. It's not working. If we have an 80% failure to appear rate on misdemeanors in California, that is not just something not working. It's a complete failure.
I
and
agree.
so it's not an alternative. But you originally asked me, and I want to come back to that question about drugs. What's my position on drugs? And I'm going to tell you, you've got to be able to have criminal laws on drugs so that when somebody gets arrested and they go before a judge and they say, you can go to jail or you can go to rehab, and then they pick rehab. That's the hammer to get them to rehab, because the problem with rehab is it has a 75% failure rate on rehab. And so they fail, they get out, they get back in trouble, they go back to court, and the court says, you want to go to jail or you want to go to rehab? And so you're hoping that eventually they get straightened out. You may not like that. You may not like the hammer, but that's better than what we're doing right now, where we're saying, we're going to have everybody have Narcan. And when you overdose, we're going to try to race to bring you back so that you don't die. I mean, that's not a future. Look at what's the drug rate in Portland right now. It's gone from like 6% to 12 over a couple of years. I mean, we're now starting to see people argue you have a fundamental right to do drugs if you want to. And that is not the answer. I mean, so what would let's just take this argument to the string. What is our elected officials doing differently than they would be doing if they were in the back pocket of cartels to sell more drugs? I don't see they'd be doing anything different than they're doing right now. Let's decriminalize it. They can do whatever they want. They're all over the streets all the time, and they're overdosing. And the government's there just to bring them back to life to buy more drugs. That's not a solution.
It's not. So what is the solution? And keep in mind, I'm a commissioner for alcohol and other drugs. So I'm with you on this conversation. Yeah. Well, but I'm still struggling to find an answer that is equitable and effective.
Well, we've got to have criminal laws on drugs. I read an article that said 80% of all crime is traceable to drug trafficking, to drugs. And so if you believe that 80% of all of our crime is some way traceable to drugs, if you give up on drugs, you're giving up on crime. And I'm not in favor of that. The public would not be in favor of that if that was the vote. And so that's the reason why we have all these crazy votes about we're going to be more humane. Look, sending somebody to drug rehab is the most humane thing you can do. And if they refuse to go and you have to send them to prison, well, that's the most humane thing for public safety. I mean, that's where I am. Let's be humane for public safety.
Let me take it a little further with you. Our young people are at an all-time high of addiction. Now, we know that we can't just put young people in juvenile hall. My opinion is there has to be some level of accountability with parents. How do you suggest that when a child gets caught with substances at school, what do you think should happen? Because now nothing happens. There's some counseling that takes place. There's a talk with the parents. And the unfortunate part about that is the numbers are still climbing. The numbers are constantly climbing. We have more overdoses of young people than we've ever had, ever. So
let me tell you what I think is. Let me tell you what I think is guiding the policy on this, and is what is guiding the do nothing. We know we have a high dropout rate for our inner cities, and when you drop out of school, that means your likelihood of going to prison raises exponentially. And so these policies of we're not going to do anything to you, and we want to do everything we can to get you to stay in school. We're now pressuring teachers to give a passing grade when they don't deserve a passing grade. I understand the thought behind those policies, but this is this is absolutely wrong. And like you said, if drugs are just increasing, and so we're going the wrong way again. And this is not this is not what we should be doing. We should find something else. But we have to first admit, and this is the biggest problem in this criminal justice reform, bail reform debate, is just to have these policies, have them admit they're not working. Let's go back to Houston. The judges in the O'Donnell case were appealing, they were winning, and then there was an election, and all the politicians that we need to settle, we spent $8 million in legal fees. And so all new judges were elected, and all new judges said, we're going to settle. Well, since then, they've spent over $100 million implementing this settlement. That's an absolute fiasco.
Ken, I'm just looking for a fix. I brought you here today because I want you to fix the problem. I want you to tell us what we need to do with this bail system and how we can move forward as a nation, because it is not working.
I agree with you. It's not working. But you know what? We have to... what's also not a solution is dumbing down the whole school system. I mean, look at Washington, where they got rid of all of their charter schools because they felt like there were not enough minorities in there. Who are they hurting over time? They're hurting Washington because they're really smart people in their schools are now being dumbed down. The solution is not to dumb down your schools. And so that's going to hurt society as a whole. And so any system of accountability is better than this. In our criminal justice system, in our bail reform movement, in our schools, we have to have a system of accountability. But when you go to California, your biggest problem in California, because I've spent a lot of time looking at this, is your lack of capacity in your prison system. Look at all the cases that have been filed, the case that went up to the U.S. Supreme Court, where your prison capacity was capped at 137.5% of capacity or 4% of capacity. And so when you look at it like that, you can see everything that's happened in the last few years has been to reduce the prison population, not to reduce crime. It's been just to reduce prison population. And so when politicians, not you, of course, because you're very honest, but when politicians say this statute, we're going to release more criminals and it's going to make us safer, that's absolutely false. In the opinion that went to the Supreme Court, the dissent, which is now the majority, but the dissent said, you're ordering California to release the equivalent of 3 divisions of criminals back into society. And you're going to see the same result that other jurisdictions saw when they tried this, more crime. And since then, what has California seen? More crime. So accountability. You know what the fix is? We got to hold people accountable. If you don't, then there has to be consequences. We're now in California, we don't have consequences. The question is,
accountability, does it matter your background and your income? Is it effective? Is the accountability effective if you have more resources than someone else to continue to commit those crimes? Okay, I post bail, but I got more bail and I got a mama that got bail and anybody else. So I can go back and do exactly what I want to do while I wait for my court case to come up. And I got an attorney. So, they got my bail, but I have an attorney too that's also probably going to get me off of these charges. There is a very unbalanced way that the law enforcement and accountability works when you have resources. So I, like you, want to see accountability, but I also see that it's not applied equally and there is an imbalance, and people that have finances and resources can continue to do whatever they want to do because they have it.
These are arguments we see all the time. And the problem is the criminal justice system. No, the criminal justice system is not made to have a cookie cutter system. I mean, if I was to be arrested today, my bail would be set higher because I have the ability to pay than someone like me 20, 30, 40 years ago before I was an attorney. My bail would be lower because of all of those considerations. That's the way the system is intended to work. When you're a first-time offender, you get a slap on the wrist. When you're a second-time offender, you get more because the first time didn't work. Our criminal justice system is intended to apply only the amount of pressure that is needed to get you to become a productive citizen. It is not cookie cutter. We don't treat everybody the same, no matter how many times they commit car theft. We treat you differently based upon your circumstances. The problem we have in the criminal justice system is we want to turn it into a cookie cutter situation, and it was never intended to do that. And to become that, to try to become that, you're creating chaos where you can't hold anybody accountable. And when you can't hold anybody accountable, it forces the courts to dismiss cases to prevent the system from collapsing.
I don't want a cookie cutter. I actually just want to make sure that anybody that commits sexual assault, no matter what kind of finances they come from, is behind bars until their trial. That's something that I can say as a working class citizen, I would like to see. So it doesn't matter if you come for money or not.
That says that. Why don't we just do a constitutional amendment that says if you're accused of this crime, your bail is denied until trial? I mean, it's that simple. You just have to have the voters approve it. The problem is the politicians don't want that. They don't want that because that would be a vague fix for the public. They want the chaos. They want the problems of the courts because they want less crime. They want to push people to. I mean, look at the Prop 49, which now they have a petition to revoke it. I mean, what's done more damage to California in the last 10 years than Prop 49? I mean, all you did in 49 was change certain felonies to misdemeanors, but then in your urban areas, you've got some Soros DAs that said, we're not going to prosecute these crimes anymore. And suddenly stores can't have $25,000 a day of shoplifting. And then you've got San Francisco, the Nancy Pelosi building, where they're saying work from home. It's not even safe to walk from your car to the building. And property values in San Francisco are dropping to 30% of what they were 2 or 3 years ago and selling for 30% or 50%. That's not sustainable. I mean, I have a lot of hope in this area because what's going on right now is not sustainable. And you're at the center of the eye of the storm.
I feel like you're eating up California right now. I'm taking this a little personal right now.
Oh, me? I'm not eating up California. I'm not that hungry.
Like, oh, he's just eating us up right now. It's not good. It's not good. But I also, I had a younger cousin that went and committed a bunch of crimes in Texas, and they actually put him down. So Texas don't play either. And sometimes I do wish that we had it like that here, because one thing we know for sure is don't go to Texas. Don't go to Texas acting up. They will put you down.
But California used to be that way. Why did we think it was okay to be doing these things where we're just no longer? I mean,
I don't think it's not okay. That's the thing. It's not okay. I think some politicians with conscious thought recognize, for some, it is very tough to get a fair shake. But I don't think the way that we're handling it is right either. Like, I see both sides. And I just know.
I think we have the fairest criminal justice system in the world.
No, you do not.
I do think we do.
Stop playing, Ken.
I absolutely think. I mean, we have some. Yes, absolutely. I think we have the fairest criminal justice system in the world. And I have faith in the criminal justice system. Now, we could start a whole debate on what the Supreme Court just ruled on the Trump immunity. But, judges have absolute immunity. So why would you think they would argue anything differently for a president acting within his constitutional prescribed duties? Everything else they said.
What do you mean judges have absolute immunity?
Oh, in Texas, judges have absolute immunity for what they do on the bench. Absolutely, they do. Until you can't sue them. And so why would a president have less rights than that? Everything else, the Supreme Court said, we're taking it back to the trial court for a presumption of immunity, and you decide it, and it'll come back up on appeal. How is that? What we're hearing is this some terrible, it's just a crazy opinion. No,
probably
just
because
what the law it is. It's what the law is.
Okay, it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy if you're on the receiving end of someone's vitriol or their maliciousness.
How is that immune? How is that ever immune? I mean, the argument that Sotomayor made, the president's now a king, he can assassinate somebody. How is that ever within the president's core responsibilities? Is there any situation where the president would be ruled to be immune from killing his opponent. I mean, if that argument was true, Biden would go out and have Trump killed immediately. It's the reason why it's not true. And he knows it. He's not doing it.
I don't understand where the stoppage is, though. Where is that?
I agree
Where
with
is
that.
that?
You know, the better argument,
Where
the
is
better
it?
comparison
It's
is
so abstract. It's like abstract art.
well, but
Like,
when they order the assassination of Osama bin Laden, nobody argues that that's some egregious crime and there's no immunity for that. I mean, they just don't even accuse it of a crime. So I can see there would be some gray areas, but there's not a ruling from the Supreme Court from Monday saying that that's a subject to immunity. They said we're remanding the rest of the case outside of his constitutional duties to the trial court with a presumption of immunity. That's it. So to say that this is some big crazy opinion, that kind of goes to all these other things about criminal justice reform. Can we have an honest debate? Bail reform. The bail industry is an easy target. Can we have an honest debate there? Can we even have an honest debate about releasing people? No, whether they don't come back to court. Nobody's having that debate. Hey, you know what? In the name of just being fair, nobody's coming back to court. Well, then we got to stop that. We got to stop that. We got to be able to have court. We got to be able to get cases resolved. We got to be able to have closure to victims. We're not doing that right now.
I agree with that. So on that note, I'll leave it there. We do need closure for victims. How we get there seems to be a really big challenge. And as a victim of crime, I wholeheartedly agree. So hopefully we can continue to have these conversations. Maybe we'll have you back again because this keeps going around and around in circles, and this election is coming up. And if there's some things that maybe you want to chat about, bring in an audience to maybe even ask you some questions. I think it will be good because there's a lot of misunderstanding around it. So,
yes,
you know, again, I want to thank you for your time. Thank you for being here, and thank you for being transparent. I don't know if I agree with everything you said, but there is definitely some common ground in regards to
my
victims.
wife doesn't agree with everything I say.
Bless her heart.
That was a totally Texan thing. You stole that. I know. You were waiting the whole time.
My family is from Mississippi, and my grandfather had 17 brothers and sisters in a house that was probably about as big as your garage right now. So understanding the roots in which you came from and the hard work that you put in to be where you are is important. And I just want you to know that I respect everything that you're doing, and I appreciate what you are doing in regards to trying to find, you know, solutions. And I think that's our job, is to continue to work hard, to have tough conversations and find solutions that will make our lives better and bring a higher quality of life, especially for those that worked really hard to get where they are. So again, I want to thank you and hope that you will consider coming back, because I feel like we can continue this conversation. I don't know, what are your thoughts?
Oh, absolutely. I really appreciate your comment about the cycle. I just really believe we're repeating the mistakes that we made in the 60s, and it's just one big cycle. In the 60s, we felt more safe. We started being more forgiving on our criminal laws. We started having more crime. We had how do we address it? We couldn't agree between the parties. We had a backlash. We had Reagan elected on the war on crime. And if we're not careful, we'll have that same cycle repeated. We're in the middle of it right now because we're in the middle of, we can't agree to work together to find a solution. And the backlash was bad the last time. And since the swing to the left was worse this time, the swing to the right will be even worse next time. And so we need to work together to find solutions so we don't have these backlashes. And, you know, if people want to find out more information about me or my own podcast, the Bell Report, where it's, you know, go to thebellreport.com and you can see all kinds of podcasts on these criminal justice issues. We talk about California some. We talk about the New Jersey plan. We talk about, you know, I've talked to the Yolo County district attorney. I've talked to a former chief from the LA County Jail who's retired, and they were very educational to me. I relied on a lot of that information to talk to you today. But I would say, you know, I would be so bold to say that a lot of what's going on in California and New York and Harris County, the politicians know what they're doing is increasing crime, and they're putting politics above public safety. And the data is starting to show it. And I've had people on podcasts say that's exactly what's happening, and the politicians knew it. And we've got to get the politics out of crime, and we've got to get public safety back in.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, again, thank you. I appreciate your input, and I do hope that we will continue this conversation.
Absolutely. I enjoyed it very much. You're very nice, even though you said bless your heart to me.
I meant that though. I meant that. I mean, you're
I
a married
felt
man with
blessed.
kids. I bless your heart out there in that hot heat. I don't know.
Yeah.
I went to Grambling University my first semester out in Louisiana, and I was like, this is not for this California girl. These bugs are too big. This heat is too moist, and I gotta get out of here. So yeah, bless your
Well,
heart.
when I went to college, I mean, I didn't know anybody, and I was a little farming town boy, and I mean,
Mm.
I was scared of women. And so I came home after a couple of weeks, and I told my mom, "I don't wanna go back. I don't know anybody. I feel
Mm.
like I don't know what I'm doing." And then 2 weeks later, they called me and said, "Are you gonna come home?" I'm like, "No, I've got too many friends. We have things to do." And so there is a transition, and
Yeah.
it's been fun. It was fun when I was there to go through it, but now it's even more traumatizing to go through it as a parent because, I've now been at the point where I'm staring at a dot on Find My Friends going, "I hope you're having fun. I hope you're finding friends, but please call me. Call me."
Right. Let me know how you're doing. Text me something.
Yeah. Oh, I
I
hate
love
text,
it.
but I got used to them because otherwise my daughter wouldn't talk to me.
Hey, Ken, thanks so much. You have a good one. And